I click on the main camera, and I'm going to put that to just the main camera, and I'm live now out to the world, and you will, approximately 20 seconds, 30 seconds, you'll start seeing me appearing. You'll also, because that's now the bit that I'm there, remember when I said mute? That's what happens. You start to hear me now come through, because I'll start coming through now, because I was on the holding screen with no audio. So, I just look at my windows and I look at my sound levels. That's it. This is when he really can't find my sound. Oh,
bottom left.
Bottom left. Thank you, Nathan. You see, he has a use. It's great, isn't it? It's like Siri, but we... I don't know what to say. What do I say about you, Nathan? Siri?
Probably very little.
Right, you see, and everybody's now hearing the audio coming through. Right, okay. Cameras. At the moment, you're looking at my main camera. This is my standard FaceTime camera that you'll see. It's not bad. The lighting in here isn't brilliant, but you can see that's a FaceTime camera. I've got multiple cameras here. The next one in here is the Logitech 920. Logitech 920 is one of the most popular cameras that people use for streaming. The 920 comes in about €50 maximum. Normally on a Amazon Black Friday sale thing, it drops even lower. I've got it on a €10 stand, as you can see, that just allows you to move it, because actually sitting on the top of your computer, it never sits in the right place anyway. Second, I'm going up to this camera here. That is one of the ones from, this is one of the contributed cameras from WordCamp. So they supply you camera equipment if you run a WordCamp. This is one of their cameras. Not bad, this is a Canon HF-M46. Finally, I have a camera in front of me, which is my Sony camera. And that has a better picture quality. Typically it has a better picture quality because it can come in. So what does that look like when I put on all four? There you go. That's it. This is a beta shot, isn't it, beta? This is how you look at yourself in the morning. So you can see there's 4 different cameras, and you can see the different versions. Bear in mind that Logitech is relatively cheap. The picture quality on the Logitechs are normally pretty good. The downside of the Logitechs, they're USB, so you're doing all the processing for this on your computer. At that point, I should point out that actually I have 2 power supplies plugged into my laptop at the moment on USB-C, and you will still see the battery drop. That's how heavy work this is doing on the laptop, so you just have to be aware. When you're trying to do all this camera work, it'll do that. So, that's the starting point of there. So, I go back to now to bring in Skype, and now you'll see a very nice picture of myself and Nathan. Say hello.
Hello.
So, Nathan, can you give us some examples of where you use live streaming?
I use it every week, twice a week. I have a WordPress podcast called WP Builds, and I say twice a week. It's actually just once a week. We use it on a Monday at about 2 o'clock UK time in order to do a live summation of the WordPress news. And we do exactly what you're seeing now. We use Ecamm Live. I have a Stream Deck, which is the buttons which Leo's been pressing. And we have people on from the WordPress community just to run over the news from the previous week, just to keep people updated.
Thank you. So, as you can see, you can actually bring in a guest. What I did there to bring in Nathan was, he's come in on Skype, and then there's an option inside of Ecamm to bring in using something called NDI. I don't want to go too deep into that, but that is how you send pictures over Ethernet cables to another device. So if you look at the information that I'm sending out on the screen over there, I can actually bring that back in under NDI and put the title in across the bottom. It becomes quite complex. It kills your PC even more. Nathan mentioned the Stream Deck, and I talked about the Stream Deck earlier. I'm just going to see if I can actually bring in the Stream Deck by going back to here and taking out the camera. No, wrong one. It's great, isn't it? There you go. So the Stream Deck, which is that device there, as I said to you, it actually has live images. You can actually see the live images of each individual key that I press, or what happens, and you can actually see, as you can even see that the live image on that one that's pressed, you can see is actually live of the movement. So it's really, really useful. If you're doing a lot of work on live streaming, it works really well. Actually, it works really well for loads of things. Nathan, what do you use your, apart from live streaming, do you use your Stream Deck for other things?
Yeah, I use it for kind of like launching browser tabs and firing up things that I typically do in Chrome, things like that. Launching Mac apps, basically, that's kind of all I'm using it for. Essentially, you can map any keystroke that the Mac will do to the Stream Deck. And it looks on the Stream Deck as if you've got an array of 5 by 3 buttons, so 15 buttons. That's actually not the case, because you can turn buttons into folders, and then you can have subfolders. So you could have, for example, one of the buttons could be mapped to Mac apps, and then you could have 14 or 15 Mac apps assigned in there. And I know it sounds trivial, but the uses that it can be put to are pretty amazing, actually. I'm probably not doing it all that much justice, but it's a great bit of kit. I would not have bought it for anything other than the live streaming, but I kind of repurposed it just because it's sitting there and not being used for most of the week, but it is very useful.
Thank you. I should say, I have a remote microphone here that hopefully Nathan can hear that microphone as well.
I can hear a mic, I don't know if it's that one.
Hopefully you can hear us. So if you do have any questions, this is an interactive workshop. Please ask. We're happy to answer questions. So far what I've covered about is how we do the remote, we've covered why we do it, or how we're doing it, and we started talking about why we're doing it. So the reason that live works so well in sessions like WordCamps is the reality is that the information is very, very relevant to today, and it may not be relevant in 6 months' time. So being able to get that stuff out and to say what we're doing and how you're doing it is a really good resource. And people watch it. People aren't, so, if you look at anything that you see in the past, everybody was sitting there reading, everybody was sitting there listening to things. Now people are watching. You watch on tweets. If you sit there and do anything on Twitter, if you don't put up either a picture or a video, your tweet virtually is never read. If you put up a video, it attracts far more information or far more readers than you're getting otherwise. So it's a really good marketing tool to use video. But the downside of video, and if any of you do any video editing, you'll realise that it takes ages and ages to edit video. You produce a video and then someone goes, oh, can you just cut it out? Can you just take a couple of seconds out there? Or could you just change that picture there? You go, yes, that's great. That's another 2 hours work. Oh, but it's only a 5-minute job. It's like, you may think it's a 5-minute job. Once you edit it, it isn't. That's why I really like live. Live, on the other hand, you make a mistake on it, who cares? It was live, I don't care. Eat the chocolate. That's it. Stay away from me. On the other side, if you're trying to do all this stuff and produce these videos, everybody wants a really slick video, but they will accept a live video of a lower quality. But if you look back, as I was saying before, and you look at the cameras, we go back to say, as I was saying with the that camera, the quality isn't bad. And all I was doing on yesterday, which I can't show you, is I had one camera facing to the screen there, and I was bringing picture in picture on there. A shot that looks sort of like, I don't think I've got it. No, but I can simulate it. If you want to see what Nathan looks like as a little dot in the corner, I can simulate Nathan as a dot in the corner. So he still waves, but it's isn't that great? How much time and effort? If any of you do videoing and know how much hassle that would have been to do that in Premiere Pro, you'd be spending ages to do stuff like this to make this all happen. And as I said to you before, I was putting on things like I've got makes life really easy. Okay, so I've covered some of the reasons, I've covered the technology, I've covered a few bits on this. really what I want to do now is to open up to some questions and turn this camera around so Nathan can actually see you. So let me look professional and actually go to another camera while I'm doing it, because that's obviously much better than just doing it live. And ask if anybody has questions, so that hopefully. But now, Nathan can see you. So
that's so bizarre.
Hello. There you go. You didn't think you were doing that today, did you? There you go. So, I'm just going to open up. Has anybody got any questions about what I've covered? Oh, God, all the way over there, which I can't even get on camera. You have to, no, I'm not allowed to do that. You're in the wrong place. You just have to... Right, you will have to use the microphone. Can I have somebody... I needed a runner, didn't I? Nathan, can you still hear me on this camera, on this microphone?
Leo, in a superb piece of technological breakdown, I actually can't hear through that mic, so whoever it is will either have to shout or...
Right, okay. Shout. I'll repeat the question if the question is...
Okay, great.
It's just a simple question. I was listening...
Right,
It was just a simple question. I was listening to it on Twitter as opposed to YouTube and then Facebook, and I noticed that there was a time lag between the various. What would that typically be?
Okay, so the question, Nathan, is about why is there a time lag on videos. Do you want to take that? On live streaming?
My simple understanding, I don't have technical explanation for this, but it's primarily just the fact that it's being sent from the computer to YouTube's, in this case, servers. The way that Leo's got it set up is actually going through another third party called Restream. So they accept the stream, they then push it to YouTube, YouTube then pushes it out. I don't know if it's by design as well. My brother, for example, works for a local radio station, and whenever they do anything live, by law, they have to add in a delay in case something catastrophic happens, like they have a phone in or something and people swear, for example. So I don't know if it's built in. Some platforms lag more than others. For example, I found that YouTube is quicker by about half as much. It takes about 15 seconds to get to YouTube, whereas Facebook seems to take about 30 seconds. So that's my understanding anyway.
Yeah, I reiterate exactly what Nathan said. There is a big issue about this. So it came up in the Football World Cup last year. It was the first time that lots and lots of people were watching live sport where it wasn't, so your neighbour could be sitting here and cheering a goal that you actually only saw on the TV 20 seconds later. So it's how it works. It's how the systems work. There is talk about how to reduce that, what's called latency. But funny enough, when you're sitting at home, the biggest issue you have, although I haven't turned on my comments and reactions, you have this on a Monday, don't you, Nathan? About comments.
Yeah. So we open the live stream up for comments, and people very frequently write comments. And I don't have anybody sitting organising that for me, so I have to be talking and bringing the comments onto the screen at the same time. And so very often we'll have moved on our little portions of news. They might last for about a minute or a minute and a half, and so by the time that somebody's made a comment and I've been made aware of it, it's actually, we moved on to a new story. So it is a bit peculiar, but there's not much to be done about it.
Yes.
Can you build in latency?
Can you build in latency? Yes,
so
you
that
can.
You have like a buffer time?
Yeah, there is a buffer. You can buffer it if you wish to buffer at your end, so before the information comes through. Yes, you can. I don't know if you can. I have never played around enough to see if you could. There is settings in here, but I haven't seen the ability to set the latency. It's a good question, but I haven't seen that you can actually set it if you wanted to. There's reason. I'm sure there is ways you can do it if you wish to do it. And as Nathan said, sometimes there is governance that you want to record. You haven't got ABBA in the room, because ABBA will tell you all about governance and how that works on that side of it.
Actually, there is a good point about, let's say, for example, you were to go live in a cafe, and in the background in the cafe, somebody suddenly starts playing music. You really do need to be mindful of that. You've got to be very careful about copyrighted content that you put out. And although the takedown notice will be nothing more than that, you'd probably not get banned from YouTube. There are, as I found out, there are people who will come after you and try to extract money from you because you accidentally played some music in the background and it was completely out of your control.
Yes.
I was going to say that if you're looking or if you're editing or uploading a video on YouTube, but you give the rights to the person that is the singer or the company that owns the song, will you still be taken down?
So the question is, if you have the rights.
You have the rights, but you give the credit to whoever owns.
Okay, so you get strike notices against you in the various different platforms if you give copyright information. The strike notices come very, very fast because they're automated. So you literally, if I sit here and I put, if somebody starts playing music in the background of this, I will get a strike notice within about 5 minutes or less. Normally, the strike notices are okay. All it means is you can't do any advertising against that strike notice. But it's, it depends on what you're trying to, where you're trying to go and what you're trying to do about whether you're going to get notifications of the strike notices. But I would say that, however, I've had a number, I've never had a channel stopped. Well, I have a long time ago, but it hasn't happened in the recent times.
Even if you give the rights to the company who owns it.
Yeah, so what you actually find is they don't know that you've got the rights. So if you, for example, you go and get copyright music and you go and license it, I know people that have had notices against them even though they bought the PPL license or whatever the equivalent is. Because they don't care, they just go bang and do it. You then have to go and apply to get it taken off, apply in advance. When I've done lots of big live events with YouTube in the past, they've just like whitelisted the channel, and it's like we're going to whitelist the channel for those events because otherwise it's embarrassing to them if some, I work for governing bodies and federations, so we do stuff in the Olympics, we do stuff in other sports. If that got turned off because their automatic bots did it, they just literally take all of that off for those events. But you need a YouTube account manager to do that. Yes.
You can have an unlimited numbers of viewers on all the platforms, and if the number of viewers wouldn't put any strain on your computer when you're loading, when you're streaming actually.
So that's a really good question. To explain, all I'm doing is encoding on this PC. The PC is sending it to the thing called the restream. The restream is then sending out a single copy to Twitter, to Facebook, and to YouTube. Well, it's not. As you saw, I'm actually gone live on, 2, 4, I've also gone live to Twitch. 2, 4, 6, 8 different channels I'm live on at the moment. It doesn't make any difference how many people are watching at the other end. That's Twitter's problem, Facebook's problem, YouTube's problem. Nothing to do with this. The other thing I should mention is some people also say, why don't I just take the YouTube clip and the YouTube thing and just push that to Facebook and push that to Twitter? It doesn't come up native. If any of you are following WordCamp Dublin on Twitter now, if you open up your Twitter account on your mobile phone, it won't work on your PC. If you open up your Twitter account on your mobile phone, go to the very, 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 very top of Twitter, and you should see it says live now. Right? If you ever want to know about how to put your name right in the front of somebody, that works. Has anybody got it? Yeah, you can see it right at the top. You may also, a few of us, and I'm sure that including Melin, will be sitting there still seeing Wales, France at the top of Twitter. But that's how that works. Yes.
I have a question about the scenes. So I imagine you pre-created these and graphics and stuff like that. How's that work? A couple of image files?
Okay, so there's a couple of different ways. So the question is about the scenes, Nathan. How do you
Okay.
write the names of things? So there's a couple of different ways. In Ecan, which is the software I'm using here, what you literally can do is you can write a name. So I've got some that I've used in another one. So we've just got the information here, and you can literally edit, put the information up, and put it through. So that's pretty straightforward. And then you can set and define the scenes to work together so that they appear or not. So I've also got the talk that he was talking about. There's lots of other titling software out there. I use something called Title Live, and that is very, very good, and it does dynamic titles. How do you do your titles, Nathan, now?
I essentially use what you've just demonstrated. I use the eCam text field, and then I insert as a background image. I create, so in what you're looking at the moment, it's got my name and Leo's name on a bluish background. eCam is creating that blue background, but I remove the blue background, click the background arrow, the background checkbox, and then I just insert behind it. There you go, that's it. I insert, you have to click save and it will go away. I insert behind it an image which is kind of branded to my WP Builds channel colours.
That makes sense?
Yeah. Well, I'll talk more about the top section, the scene one. How do you set these guys up?
So you define each of your scenes as you wish to, all the information you want on them, and then you make them yourself. So a good example is the whole, if I see
It's really simple. It's one of those things that if you spend 10 minutes playing with it, you immediately get it figured out. The options are you can insert an image, you can insert a video, you can insert text, plus you can insert a timer, a countdown timer, which I actually use so that if I do show up late, as Leo was saying, 5 minutes late, I put the timer on so that people know it's not just a holding screen, it's that it hasn't actually started yet. Yeah, like
so
that.
if I do that to that time there, we're going down, and you just change the words on it to say something like it's going down, it counts down to there. Yeah. Far away, yeah.
Can you embed live streaming in WordPress websites? And how do you
Absolutely, you embed WordPress. It's a really good question and to explain. The best solution to embed it is to use the YouTube feed.
Yeah.
YouTube feed. The YouTube feed. So when you go live, that's the reason you go live most of YouTube. Is actually what I found is that Twitter and Facebook will get you. Twitter is really good at getting people to see your feed for the first time. Really, really good. Longevity, YouTube wins because people keep getting it. Also, I like the subscribe option. You're now going to get a ping every single time for the rest of today we go live, which is great because you're going to watch. But it actually enables you to embed it. You embed it once. You've set up a page, haven't you, Nathan?
Yeah, so just to reiterate that, if somebody subscribes to your YouTube channel and clicks the bell, then every time you go live, they get a very plain, quite, it's not heavy branding or anything, just a YouTube email which says something like, we're going live in a moment. That's it, live feed, yeah. And what I've done is I've simply embedded the YouTube live video feed there, and obviously because I'm not using it at the moment, it's just a holding image which you set as your thumbnail, and then as soon as we go live, doesn't matter where or when, that video immediately becomes a live video. You still have to click play, but the difference is simply that YouTube send out an email to let people know, whereas Twitter, you've just got to kind of hope that people are tuned in. I've actually got a Facebook group, and that's quite a good way to interact with these live videos as well, largely because Facebook groups tend to have a bit more interaction, people are a bit committed to them, and also Facebook do notify people who are members of the group, and I don't know what their algorithm is, but they certainly seem to identify people, and they come and watch us inside the Facebook group quite a lot.
Okay.
And do you use any specific plugin for that?
There's no plugin. You don't need. Well, this is actually a funny discussion. You can write your own way of doing the live, but there's a couple of YouTube plugins that will actually put the thing in. Because what actually happens each time you go live, unless you have more than 100 subscribers, your live URL will keep changing. So once you're up to that figure, you can actually lock your URLs down, and then you can have a custom URL in YouTube. You used to be able to get it earlier, but they've now changed it. So the algorithm, the way they do it, you have to have about 100 to get that. But once you do that, you can just put the URL in, and the page will appear live, and the page will start playing. The other thing that we haven't done or talked about is how you get the feedback. So I'm not getting any comments and feedback on this because I haven't set it up fully. But there's an ability that you use it a lot, don't you, Nathan?
Yeah, so the eCam software that Leo's using will enable you to pull in comments from a Facebook page and a YouTube channel, but it won't allow you to pull in comments from a Facebook group. They disabled that feature in light of the kind of whole Cambridge Analytica scandal and when they were tightening everything up. There's been talk about allowing that again, but what happens is at the minute, because there's no live stream, the chat, as you can see there, is disabled, but I've just embedded the YouTube live chat, and comments come into there, and then they come into what you can see on Leo's screen. There's a little comments box, and they fly into that little comments box, and then you can push them to the actual video. It's quite fun. What you can see on Leo's screen.
Trying to get to see if I can actually say something.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so anyway, they will appear in that comments and reactions box, and then you simply click on them, and they appear in your video, and you can brand those to be whatever colour you want, size or whatever. No, possibly not.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Look at that. And then all you do, and this is obviously completely non-branding for the person because we don't like it. You just drop that in, and they drop their comments in, so they appear, and then you can take them off again. So if any of you comment now on YouTube, and I don't think it's going to work on Facebook, if you comment on YouTube, your comments I can now put up on that screen. This is where we're going to get. This is the feedback. Remember, the chocolate has been given out. So that's it. So we're going there. Okay, I've covered lots and lots of things on this. The idea is to sort of give you a definitive. This is the exact answer, and the thing changes all the time. Look at this, my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Look at this. You see, this is the things you get. You know, it's great. This is why you really like communicating with your customers. That's the whole objective of this. I've covered lots of things. Do we have any more questions? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to ask just an extension on this question. Can you embed somebody else's live stream?
Can you embed somebody else's live stream? Yes, actually you can. So actually what you're doing, if we go back to, I was on YouTube, we go back to the pages on YouTube, when you've got your videos, it's going to play again, isn't it? If it does, I'm sorry, and you go to the video link, there is, you can copy that video link and it'll actually do it. You put it in there. There is the embed link. I can't find the embed link today.
You have to go back and watch the actual video, and then it's on the share.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're right. So if I go and watch the shared, there it's going to play. So I'm going to have to YouTube. Right.
There you go. The share button.
Thank you.
And then embed.
And that puts it in.
Yep.
If you just on a funny thing on share embed links, if you do rel equals 0 on YouTube, if you haven't come across the rel equals 0 at the end of that, what that will do is it means that it will only show videos from your channel when your video starts playing, rather than the generic cats on a skateboard that you end up on every single time. So that's worth doing. Yes.
I want to have this sort of setup like this. How much money you have?
Right. So that camera was, as I said, was about 30 euros, maybe slightly more. That that I like costs next to nothing, about €10. I didn't cover this, and I should have covered it. What did I cover first, Nathan? Not the picture. What's more important?
I don't know.
The sound. The sound.
Oh, yeah, the sound. Yeah. Okay.
The sound. Nathan is on a Yeti.
Black Friday, it was £69, I think.
I have a Marantz mic at home, which sounds very nice, doesn't it? My Marantz mic sounds very nice, which is about £40. This one is a very, very popular podcasting microphone. A lot of people use that. A lot of people, we all do it. We get a great pair of headphones to listen to something, and the microphone is rubbish. And so we sit there thinking, oh, we sound great, and the people who are listening to us listen to it bad. I strongly, strongly recommend if you're doing anything live streaming, you're doing anything like that, please listen to yourself and see how you sound, because that it's not a lot of money to buy that. What I've done is the microphone here is going into a desk, a mixer desk. Most times you end up with something that's a much smaller thing, that's only about £40, that brings in your sound, and that brings it in USB into your laptop. Other costs, Restream at the moment is running around about £100, £150 a year. It doesn't matter if I say pounds and euros anymore, does it? By next week it'll be euros and euro. The eCam is around about €10 a month for their license. Are you on? Did you get a AppSumo deal?
Yeah, no, I managed to buy the eCam software where it was still just you just paid for it, and then they changed their model about 6 months ago, didn't they, to be subscription. But I think it's worth the subscription. They're very, very, very aggressive with their updates. So
I mean, some of the things you may or may not realise, the little branding at the top right-hand corner, I can move and sit on and do anything with that. It's all there. They do all those bits for you that make it just really nice. On a PC, there is what's the software?
OBS.
OBS. Thank you. OBS is open source. You don't have to pay for OBS, so you can use that as well.
There's also an increasing wave of online software. There's one called StreamYard, which will do a significant amount of what Leo showed you, but it's browser-based. So long as you've got Safari or Chrome, it'll handle all the comments and the images. You can't move them around and things like that, but you can pull in comments and you can brand it in your own way. But it's not quite as fully featured as eCam. But if you're on Windows or a Chromebook, it would do all of that. And then actually on AppSumo at the moment, they've got this one called Be Live, which does something similar, but it's pretty hobbled. I wouldn't get it.
Yes.
So there's a few software. What I'm looking at the PC version on OBS, right? And then you had Restream as well on top of it.
So Restream is the software that enables you to go to multiple sites. Restream, unfortunately, and I don't think they're ever going to bring it back, they had an AppSumo deal on Restream about 6 months ago where you could buy it for next to nothing, but there's always an offer for Restream. But that's the software that enables you to go to multiples. If you look on here, there are a number of other people out there, I think, that do very similar products to Restream. But the one that everybody seems to like at the moment is Restream. So that's the only software to use. Yes.
Do you have somewhere, or could it be possible to have somewhere kind of a checklist of the stuff?
Yeah, we put the list together of the bits. Put a list of the things together of the bits of what you need. It's sort of a moving target, like anything. What do you need tomorrow? It's always changing. It's always changing. There's something that was great, you change it again. I expect this camera to be, they're replacing by another one. They came out with the 930, but nobody seems to like that, so the 920 is still the one that everybody uses. But yeah, the camera.
Just to be clear, if you wanted a zero cost option and you've got a Facebook page, you can do all of this without the bells and whistles. You can just press go, basically, in Facebook or on YouTube, and it will suck out the picture from your camera or whatever, it won't have all these flashy commenting options or options to go to multiple channels, but it's free, it's available, it's immediate, and it's good. It's probably a decent way to start, and become familiar with how these systems work, and also sort of figure out if it's for you, because sometimes there's a level of embarrassment or shyness listening to your own voice, those kind of things. And if you've never tried it, perhaps trying it a couple of times before you invest a few €100 is probably a good idea.
Here we've got 2 more questions, and then we've got to wrap up. Yeah.
Okay.
So I was wondering, in a way you have live streaming, if any questions allowed to pop up, so the audience, or they are particularly interested in that question, and I want to go back to track that question and answer. I understand you don't want to disable the comment, which is okay. But if they want it, is it possible a little line to pop up the question?
Okay, so the question is about how the comments come up. So there's 2. So if we go back to explain the questions that were coming up from that you put in here are coming up automatically inside the YouTube channel.
No, what I'm saying is to appear and subtitle.
As to appear, there's no. This has actually come up a number of times about whether you want live questions just to appear without you actually pulling them. So I pull them in. I pull in any. If your questions came in, I just pull them in and drop them on the screen, and then I can answer them. So that question is now there.
Yeah.
To have that up automatically, there are lots of people who use this who get hundreds of questions, and the questions will just obliterate. So there is no automatic. You do need to have some degree of manual. But Nathan, you will pull in what, 5 or 6 questions?
Yeah, I simply click the add to broadcast button rather than dragging them in beneath each link, and so that will then put it in the place where the last one was. So in that case, what you can do is you can just replace one with another, and you can position it in the screen in the least annoying place, so it's not over your branding or whatever. And yeah, so in an ideal world, obviously this is not the reality for me or Leo or probably anybody really, but if you had somebody sitting next to you who could decide what comments were suitable to go on the screen and click those buttons, because you have to take your eye off what's going on. In my case, people are talking, so whilst they're talking, I can just look over and decide what's next. But yeah, I think the pros would recommend having somebody sat next to you doing it, but I don't.
Any other questions? Yes.
I have a question about testing, because it's not weird to launch this out to your audience, like on Facebook or whatever. Nathan.
Hey, Vito, how are you doing?
That kind of stops me, because I don't want to just go on live to my audience on the Facebook group and then just do all of these testing, dragging things around. How do you test this without being...
So set up a Facebook group with one other trusted person. So in your case, Vito, you set up a Facebook group with me, say, and just basically tell me, I'm going to post a few videos, just ignore them. And you can just test it that way, and then you can just kill the group once you've figured it all out. But there is no kind of like dev null where you can throw it all in order to test it. You've got to actually go live. You actually have to go live somewhere.
I think if you're asking how do I bring up the stuff on the screen, bear in mind this isn't real. Well, this isn't how you would do a live thing. Normally, when I do live events, I've loaded everything that I want, all the angles. I then lock all the angles down. So the 4-camera one, for example, is locked. So if I press the 4-shot one, it's locked. It's locked, it's got all the titles on it, everything's there, and then I can just flip back. So normally I would not be touching this, but because I'm playing around and give you some examples, I'm trying to give you some live stuff. Okay, I think we're out of time. So first of all, I'd like to thank, sorry, we're not. We've got one thing I just need Nathan just to do really quickly, which is just to cover about, while he's here, just to cover WP&L.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah, very quickly. I don't know if any of you have heard, there's a charity non-profit which has started about a year ago in the WordPress space. It's called WP&Op. you can go to wpandop.org, and the intention is to try to raise awareness about particularly mental health. There's actually 4 parts. There's mental, physical health, business health and skills health, but if we all just concentrate on the mental health for the next minute, turns out that an awful lot of people working with WordPress computers in general, especially freelancers who are quite isolated, they feel that sense of isolation and they maybe don't have anywhere to turn. So WP&Op, this charity, is a place where you can go and receive free support. There's the option to use the telephone, there's the option to use chats, there's a Slack group where people can help each other. So far in the last year, we've done thousands and thousands of hours of support, and in some cases it's been absolutely life-changing. So just to make you aware that that exists, I actually do a podcast, which is called the Press Forward Podcast, every week about any of the issues that I've just mentioned. But at the moment we're trying to raise money, as charities always do, because it's a terribly expensive business putting these things together. And so if you go to wpandop.org/donate, if you feel generous, you can do that. But also we've got a fairly ridiculous bike ride planned next year, which hopefully will raise some money as well. And you can find out about that by going to head2.org.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'd like to just thank Nathan for his time in where he is, and I thank you all for today, and hopefully that was a